Oh, Fraser, I just so want to get that KQ slot today, but I'm a little bit worried I might have just slightly overcooked it.
Yeah, I know, but look, there is always the chance for a roll down slot. And if you can just get on the feet and not have to TT too much, then you should avoid having to go into the red.
Yeah, I know, but I'm new to going long and I'm a little bit concerned about this carbo loading thing, but I definitely plan to make the most of my special needs anyway.
Yeah, I know, but just focus on your own race and make sure nobody goes into your imaginary box, because I hate wheel suckers.
If you're relatively new to this sport, you might be thinking that Fraser and I have just gone a little bit mad. And admittedly, some of this triathlon race chat does sound a little ludicrous if it's not put into context. Well, I'm going to be breaking down some of this triathlon jargon and explaining it for you in this video. This one's fairly self-explanatory. It's about stepping up in distance. So say you've only ever raced Olympic or maybe 70.3 distances and you're now ready to extend that and step up the distance to, say, an Ironman. That's referred to as going long. This one is swimming based. Drafting plays a big part in open water swimming, and getting on the feet of the swimmer in front can be a huge advantage. If you hear someone saying they missed the feet, that basically means they didn't manage to keep up with a swimmer who's slightly faster to get on their feet and get that advantage. Another thing you might hear people say is on the hips. Well, that's basically drafting on the hips where you get a slightly more of an advantage. There are many terms used for the unpopular athlete who sits on the wheel of that bike in front. I mean, first off, it's black and white, completely illegal and therefore cheating. And there's quite a few other terms which I'm sure you could use but probably aren't really appropriate for this video. And if you want to avoid being called a wheel sucker or something even worse, you need to respect the imaginary box. So in non-draft legal racing, there's obviously a set distance from which you have to keep between you and the athlete in front and also around when you pass them. So imagine that box that's around them, you should never go inside it. I'm not talking about a standalone bike race here, but the term time trialled it does come from an individual effort within a race. For example, if you're out on your own, it's pretty lonely, especially if you're going into a headwind, and as much as it might be a non-draft legal race, we've still proven that there's an advantage to be had when you're 12 metres behind someone. So if there's nobody else around, you're going to be finding it quite a lot harder, and you're basically time trialling it. Well, this leads us on to the term making the pack. And yes, this is still relevant for non-draft legal racing. And you hear it spoken about quite often at Kona. The pro athletes talking about making the pack. Well, that's basically staying in a group on the swim so that when they get out onto the bike, even with that 12-metre difference, they will rotate and different athletes will make an effort at the front of the pack. If you, however, don't make the pack, you'll basically end up time trialling it. This is somewhere you really don't want to find yourself in a race, or definitely not for too long a period of time or too often, because you will end up paying for it. It's also known as burning too many matches. Basically, it means working too hard for too long, where you're going to be producing too much lactic acid that your body can't remove it, and you'll end up, instead of racing, surviving just to get to that finish line. We're not talking about your lunch here. It's more reference to your body and the training that you've done. Being overcooked basically means you're going to be probably really fit, but you've slightly overdone it. You might even have a little bit of a fatigue, which you definitely want to avoid if you're coming into a race. The other end of the spectrum is being undercooked, which standing on the start line can be really frustrating if you feel you wish you'd done more training, but it's definitely preferable to being overcooked. Cans, buoys, buoys, it's all the same thing. Now, if we're going for a swim in the UK and we say we're heading out to the buoys, we're not talking about going to join our male training partners out in the water. We're talking about heading to those large inflatable markers. Now, our American friends probably have it a slightly more sensible term. When they say buoys, it's a little more clear, as if you're chatting to someone who knows nothing about swimming and you say you're going to pop a buoy between your legs when you're actually referring to your pull buoy float. That could seem a little confusing. Cans is just another terminology used as well. This one's only relevant for long distance races and when the event actually provides this service. So it's when you're given a bag in which you can pop your own personalised nutrition in. It's then taken out onto the course and you can access it when you're out on the bike or the run. Whether an age grouper or a pro, getting a slot is something to celebrate. Qualifying for the World Championships is a big thing in our sport, whatever event it might be. And there are only so many slots available. So once you've qualified, you get offered that. You then just have to make sure you accept your entry. However, if you can't go to that event or you don't want to, you hand it back to the organisers and it basically rolls down. So if you get a roll down slot, that means that the athlete above you didn't want it and you therefore get to qualify. That should have at least convinced you that Fraser and I hadn't just spent too much time in the sun at the beginning of this video. Hopefully it's filled in some of those triathlon jargon gaps. If there's any others that you can think of that we haven't included, do let us know in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed it, give us a thumb up and hit that globe on the screen to subscribe so you get all of our videos here at GTN. And if you want to see a video we've done on training triathlon jargon, you can find that one just down here.